That I reached out to him, he didn't want to talk. That wasn't true.
Right.
That wasn't true. That I think 2 nights later, he said I reached out to Chris and he didn't want to talk. That wasn't true.
Remember how all of us were wondering why Chris Rock had been so quiet about the Slapgate on the 94th Academy Awards? Well, his brother Tony Rock has just revealed why. And I can't lie, it's an ingenious play by Chris. Tony explained that Chris's decision to stay quiet was actually a very calculated and planned move. He also gave us the deets on how he was about to fight Will Smith himself. Plus, did you know that Will told the whole world a big fat lie when he said he reached out to Chris to apologize? Just wait till you find out all the things Tony had to say to expose the Smith family yet again. Before we reveal the juicy details, make sure to like the video and subscribe. It's free and it will allow us to keep you in the loop. Oscar Slapgate. It's been the most talked about incident around the world for the past year. Obviously, we're all curious to get both Will and Chris's side of the situation. And yeah, we heard from Will, but Chris Rock kept it all hush-hush. We were all pretty weirded out by the fact that he didn't say a word about getting slapped. But as it turns out, this was all a very planned and calculated move by Chris Rock. Chris Rock's own brother actually spoke out about why Chris stayed quiet till the comedy special. It was all a very planned move. When talking on the Big Boy TV podcast, Tony Rock gave us the whole play-by-play of what actually went down with the Slapgate incident. Okay, so when the slap actually happened, the whole world was tuned in. Watching the Oscars on TV or streaming, Chris Rock was the host. Will was nominated for an Oscar, along with a whole bunch of other huge films up for an award. So it made sense that the entire world wanted a piece of the action. But Chris's brother, Tony, was not among the hundreds of thousands of people watching. Nope. On the podcast, Tony was asked where he was when his brother got slapped. Tony said,
I was home watching the NBA package.
Obviously, everyone wanted to know why he chose to skip out on the biggest awards ceremony of the industry with his own brother hosting. Tony Rock blatantly said,
I don't watch the Oscars. I don't support the Oscars because the Oscars don't support black movies.
Right.
I see great black movies every year, and I think that has to get it. That has to be a nomination. And they don't even mention it.
Tony went on to say,
I'm just in the house eating Cheez-Its,
Right.
like, okay, and my phone starts going crazy. So when my phone starts going crazy, as a black person, you think
Something's going on. Something happened.
somebody's
Yeah.
in something
Yeah.
bad. So now I'm looking at the phone like, damn, am I ready for this phone call? And I see my little brother Jordan calls, and I'm like, okay, I could at least take some bad news from family. And I answer the phone like, what's up? And he goes, was that real? I'm like, was what real? You didn't see that? Nah, see what? I'm sending you the link.
that shows the exact slap and all that came before and after it.
So I saw it 40 minutes, 30 minutes after you guys did.
Wow.
Because it had to circulate social media and everything before he saw it. So when I saw it, you guys had already, the world was already talking about it.
Obviously, like a loving, loyal brother, he was super pissed. Tony was ready for a fight. But then he said that Chris told him to calm down. Like, what? Tony said the world was pissed at him for feeling the way that he did, but he said he was justified in talking about the incident. That's because A, Chris is his brother, and B, because he's worked with Will Smith for a very long time. So he had a personal and professional relationship with them respectively. Like, Will Smith literally put him in the movie Hitch. They had talked on set, laughed, joked, and ate. They had a whole relationship, a bond while they were together on set. Tony used to work for Will, so he was justified in feeling the way he did. Then the host asked Tony if Chris had planned being quiet right from the beginning, and Tony agreed. He said,
and then when he said, I'm going out on the road, I'm going to start these dates, I knew, okay.
Tony says that it was a very calculated move from Chris's end. He knew that his brother chose to stay quiet when the entire world was talking about it because he was plotting his very own chaotic revenge. Tony also mentioned that he felt very emotional about the whole thing. All of them loved Will Smith before the whole thing happened.
You saw the special, you saw the pain in my brother's face when he kept saying, yo, I love this guy. I've always loved this dude. I have loved this dude for years. We've always championed this guy. He was the guy. We was like, yo, we made it when he, like, we would collectively as black people, black and brown people, we would look at Will like, yo, we made it.
But unfortunately, All it took was one joke for Will to show how he valued the very same people. Another reason why Tony felt so strongly about the whole thing was that as kids, they were always taught to stand up for one another. He said that
My father said, if your brother's in a fight, then you're in a fight.
Yeah.
We were getting fights in school, and my dad would ask my brother, what happened? And while he's telling my dad the story, my brother would say, okay, what did you do?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you do?
for Tony, it was a very emotional moment. He wanted to support his brother, but he couldn't. And then
it's so weird that people are always like, wow, Tony Rock keep talking about that for clout. I don't need to talk about it for clout. It's my brother.
He's literally related by blood to the one who got slapped and linked professionally to the one who did the slapping. So his speaking out on this was completely justified. He also mentioned that,
like you said, our parents told us don't fight in front of white people, but mommy would have had to be mad that night.
Yeah.
Mommy would have been mad that night.
Yeah.
Tony Rock also mentioned how Chris Rock was absolutely devastated, and it showed on his face during the comedy special. It showed in his expressions how hurt he was over the whole thing. But then came the crazy part. Tony was asked if he knew what his brother was up to, if he knew what the comedy special was going to contain, and if he knew about the material his brother was writing. And Tony said yes. He said
I heard snippets.
Yeah.
On the tour, he would do little snippets of it. You would hear little pieces, but I didn't know it was going to be that grand.
He also mentioned how, the stuff might sound outrageous to some people, but that's just how Chris's comedy has been since day one. So it wasn't surprising that he'd come up with something so ruthless and hilarious. In fact, Tony admitted that he had experienced the entire period where his brother was working on the build-up, and he even claimed that he was super inspired by Chris. The host also asked Tony if he would have waited as long as his brother did, and he said,
I might not have waited. Every radio host, every podcast, every
news outlet, everybody,
news outlets, every morning show, everybody spoke about it except for him.
Tony said that the major reason why his brother was quiet was that Chris wanted to talk about it on his own terms. He wanted to talk about it when he was at his peak.
So if everybody's waiting to hear me say something about it, you're going to hear me say something about it on my time.
Right.
When I'm ready in my forum.
Right.
In my gym. In my boxing ring.
Yeah.
This is my boxing ring. This is my full court. This is where I play. So you hear it on my terms.
But even though Chris was a little forgiving, Tony wasn't. Tony Rock said that there were a lot of things that didn't sit right with him. First off, he hated the fact that when the whole thing happened, nobody assisted his brother. Nobody even stood up and rubbed his brother's shoulder. Nobody went up to the stage to check if Chris was okay. Nobody cared. And that pissed off Tony. Another thing that really upset him was Will's speech. And this makes a ton of sense. Basically, in Will's speech, he said that the devil's always working, and that was supposed to be a hit at Chris and his joke. To that, Tony replied that
a joke was the devil putting his work in. I think the devil does a little bit more sinister work than that. You know what I mean?
Another thing that bothered him was that
I saw that Samuel and I think it was Denzel comforted Will, but didn't say anything to my brother.
And finally, the most aggravating part of it all was that the production company kept it going. That must have felt like betrayal. Tony also shared some crazy news. You all remember how Will kept saying that he reached out to Chris after the Oscars and that Chris didn't want to talk to him? Well, that was a big, fat lie. Tony said that
I reached out to him, he didn't want to talk. That wasn't true.
Even though Will Smith said that 2 days after the Oscars, he had, but he did it to get sympathy from the masses. Unreal. Smith had us all fooled. But then again, he's an actor, right? So that's kind of his job. Tony was also super upset at Will for the fact that he never reached out to him. The least Will could have done was text Tony and talk to him man to man, but he never did that either. Anyway, Tony Rock finally ended the discussion by saying how that one slap completely changed the dynamic of stand-up comedy. Soon after the whole incident, Dave Chappelle was attacked on stage by an armed man. Many other comedians were also attacked.
It broke the fourth wall, so to speak.
Right.
There was always a sense of, hey, that's up there and we're down here and we enjoy it from there.
Yeah.
There's no sense of performance space and audience space.
What do you think about Chris's calculated move to stay quiet and saving it all for his comedy special? Comment down below and let us know. And if you like this video, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be the first to see my next video. I post updates like this every week, where I uncover the secrets of your favorite celebrities.